Hello, everyone. This is John Burgos, and welcome to today's edition. I'll call it the Hawaii edition of Beyond the Ordinary Show. Daniel Scranton is in Maui. I'm in Kauai. I feel so connected to this Lemurian energy with all of y'all that's flowing in, and it's interesting. I actually had a beautiful conversation with a woman who lives here on the island. She's been here for about 40 years, and her name's Moa, connecting to the Moa tribe, the Moa people here. And we were talking about this rise of an energy of a new consciousness that seems like this Lemurian type of nature, and it seems to be really profound in what we were feeling here emerging on the island. And it feels like there's a nexus point for it, where we're all emerging into what's possible in our soul's journey, what's possible in relation to others, what's possible as we step more into a consciousness that proves to illuminate our purpose and our passion and our own expression of our individual expansion as human beings, and how that affects everyone around us, just by us being us. And so there's a lot that seems to be awakening through these beautiful energies that are emerging. And what Daniel Scranton is bringing to the table for all of us today, and he does so with these beautiful connections and his ability to not only channel but also embrace, and by the way that he embodies what comes through Archangel Michael, Gabriel, Kuan Yin, Yeshua, and so many others that he has access to. And today's topic is going to be about attracting your soulmate, let love in. So we're going to dive into that, open up, and different types of soulmates, what it means. We're going to talk a little bit about twin flames and Daniel's understanding and interpretation of that as well, which I think is going to be fantastic. Because I have I can't say opinions. I'm talking a lot, Daniel, excuse me. But there's
fine.
questions.
I love it. You're like
right?
reminding me of things I want to talk about as you're going.
That's perfect. I love this. So there's questions around. It's like, okay, but how does one determine this and that? And so I think Daniel's going to illuminate a lot, and also just being in the presence of the energy that's being channeled in, a transmission that we'll all be receiving as we connect deeper into the emergence of, yes, our soulmate, yes, connecting into those special, deep, intimate relationships, and so much more. It's just going to be a phenomenal phone call. Daniel's also going to take Q&A. He's got a special offer that we'll review later. But if you want to ask your personal questions, especially in the soulmate conversation, gotta take advantage of this. This is amazing. Press *2 on the phone line if you've dialed in, or you can type your question into the webcast page, which is where you're perhaps listening to this call from on your computer. And again, we'll get into Q&A a little bit later. And for any of y'all who are new to Daniel and his work, Daniel Scranton is a verbal channel, a spiritual teacher, and sound healer. He's been channeling the 12th dimensional non-physical collective known as the Creators since the fall of 2010. Since then, a wide array of other guides and collectives have spoken through him. Some of those include Archangel Michael, Archangel Gabriel, Kuan Yin, Yeshua, the Hathors, the Pleiadian High Council of Seven, the Arcturian Council. Wow, Daniel, I've been getting a lot of Pleiadian and Arcturian information lately. That's a whole different conversation, but I love that that's on here also. He also discovered an ability to channel light languages and healing overtones, and he has used this ability to help others heal themselves and manifest the reality they desire. Daniel works with individuals in one-on-one sessions, does group events, and teaches a variety of classes, including channeling classes. Daniel lives on the island of Maui, with his lovely wife, Mary Chris, and their daughter, is it Talia? Is that how you pronounce it?
Talea, like Princess Leia.
What does Talea mean?
My wife downloaded it years before we even were considering having a child, and she just got it from Talea herself one day. I think we were out in the forest, and then since her birth, my wife got that the name means flower of joy.
Oh, beautiful. I love it. Hello. Well, Daniel, welcome to today's call. It just feels so vibrant today. It feels very uplifting, very energetically beautiful. And so I think that's just speaking volumes of what today's call is going to be about. So thank you for coming on, and thank you for bringing in your version and your understanding of soulmates and attracting your soulmate.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be a part of the family.
Yeah, so it's attracting your soulmate, Daniel. Can we get, first of all, into your interpretation of soulmate and twin flames and what those have meant for you as you've transformed as well?
I think there's a big difference between a soulmate relationship and a twin flame relationship. I think we tend to get into our twin flame relationships when we're a bit younger or earlier in our lives before we really feel whole and complete in ourselves. So we look to be completed by another. Remember that famous line in Jerry Maguire where there's someone doing sign language and somebody says, what are they saying? And it's you complete me, is what the boyfriend was saying to the girlfriend, or vice versa. And it was such a beautiful line back in 1994 or whenever Jerry Maguire came out. But now I think we realize, oh, wait, that's not really what we want. And I think you have to reach a certain level of maturity and a certain comfort in yourself where you're not desperately seeking someone else to fill that hole or to make yourself feel complete. But often we get into those relationships where the attraction is so strong, and part of it is because of that feeling of desperation to be completed by another. And I think that's usually a very karmically loaded relationship where we come together with someone that we feel just so drawn to and such a connection with, but we often push each other's buttons to the point of it being real tumultuous. It's probably a lot of times off again, on again type relationship when you're with a twin flame, and usually flames out after a short period. And a lot of times it's because either one or both of the people involved are just not willing or don't have the tools to do the work necessary to get to that point where you can have a more calm, good feeling, peaceful connection with another human being, which is what we're all really looking for, even though, you know, that twin flame type of relationship is really exciting and dynamic, and it, you know, often there's great sex involved, and that's part of the attraction too, is the physical element of it. But then I think usually the twin flame relationship, like I said, can end, and sometimes people will have kid with their twin flame, so they'll have to be staying in contact and learning how to get along with each other, because again, there's always some growth that is meant to happen for everyone in a relationship. And if you didn't get it when you were in that relationship, then if you started a business together, you know, I've had clients talk about that where they're still in business with their mate that they're now separated or divorced from, or they have a child together and there's still work that needs to be done between them. But then when we're ready for a soulmate partnership, that's much more of a smooth and easy coming together and staying together, and feels much more comfortable all the time. Like, I don't know if you've ever felt this way, John, when you've been out on a date or something, but sometimes you just feel like so anxious and self-conscious with another person, and then other times you're just like completely at ease and you feel like, oh, I can be myself and I'm comfortable around this person. And it's so different sometimes, and I think that's when you're with a soulmate, you feel that way. You feel like your heart's beating normally, and yet you love this person and you just know that this is the right person for you.
Certainly, I've had both. There's something that's come in also in different conversations that I've had, and I've had other people interpret our connections of like where we come from galactically, or our connection to the angelics, and when we meet other angelics, like that feels like home also. There's a resonance to the energy. There's a comfort level. Would those be? Is that something that you can associate with, Daniel, through the work that you're familiar with, or what you the transmissions that you get through all the connections and the channeling? And if so, are those soulmate connections as well, or is that something in a different category?
Well, what I've gotten through my channeling is that sometimes we'll meet a person, a soul, in one of those higher dimensions. So whenever we were traveling through the other star systems, we were on our descension journey, which means we went through 7, 6, 5, 4, maybe even 3 before coming to Earth and being third dimensional Earth beings. And so we can meet someone in the 7th dimension, let's say in the Sirius star system, and develop that real soul-to-soul connection and become members of the same soul family in that way. And then that person becomes an ideal candidate, of course, for this lifetime, when we're looking for our soulmate, to reconnect with someone that we had such a beautiful bond and connection with in the 7th dimension in Sirius or the Pleiades or wherever. So yeah, that definitely plays a part, but I think that because one of the missions here, besides finding love and living happily ever after here on Earth, is also to unite the galaxy and bring together different groups and different star systems that maybe haven't always gotten along so well. So for a person of Lyran origin to get together with a person of Pleiadian origin can help to heal the rift that has existed between those two groups.
Oh, that's fascinating. I never thought about it that way, and that seems to make sense. Wow. So when you get into soulmates, Daniel, and again, we start having the soulmate conversation, is there just really just one soulmate? Is like the soulmate the attraction to the one that we have the potential to really having longevity with during this lifetime?
Well, first of all, I want to say that I do believe in something that makes total sense to me. Like when you said that sounds true, I think that's a good barometer for whether something is going to be a truth for you, is whether it resonates. And what resonates with me is the idea that whatever happens in the physical happens in the non-physical. So to have, since we do have twinning experiences here where the egg splits in two and then you have twins, I think that has happened with souls as well. And I do think that you could have started out as one soul and through that twinning process become two different souls. But I don't think that that's a necessity. You don't have to be reconnecting with that other being that was once your one soul in order to have that be a soulmate connection. Because for one thing, we've had so many lifetimes. I think the average lifetime count for people on Earth is between 600 and 700, and some people have a lot fewer, and some people have in the thousands. So given that that's the case, just the number of lifetimes we've had on Earth, we've certainly had more than one romantic partner. So we have more than one soul that we've connected with in a romantic way in past lives, which means the number of soulmate possibilities that exist for us on this planet at this time in this dimension, it has to be more than one. It wouldn't make any sense to me if it was one person for one person. And in my experience, and I think in your experience, probably a lot of people's experience who are on this call right now, it's not like just because you were with a person and it didn't last, that doesn't mean that person wasn't your soulmate. That person was your soulmate for that period of time for which the two of you were together in romantic partnership. And I think that we're here now in this lifetime where we're shifting our consciousness to do a lot of soulmate work, to do a lot of soul family work, which is also why a lot of us feel like we're the weird ones in our family, you know, the only one who believes in this type of new age stuff that we're talking about. But I do believe that we are here now with multiple soulmate partners on the planet, that we've probably already been in relationship with at least one or two by now as an adult, and there's probably 4 or 5 or more available to each of us who's not in relationship right now. And so to think in terms of, well, I have one soulmate and that soulmate's not here, like let's say somebody passes on that you're in that beautiful soulmate relationship with, well, there's no reason to believe that you then have to be alone after that, romantically speaking, because that person is no longer incarnate. There are several other that can step in and be that partner for you.
And do you think that we have to find our soulmate and be in some type of soulmate relationship in order to evolve spiritually?
I think that, well, let's look at it this way. We have Tibetan monks, right? These people, I don't know if they have males and females, but these people that we know about in Tibet who are sort of holding a high vibration for all of humanity and chanting and doing all this beautiful work, I don't think they ever necessarily get into a romantic relationship, and I think that's fine for those people. That's part of their path. So you can take a vow of celibacy and be more on that track of, I'm going to be partnered with Source in this lifetime. I'm going to focus more inwardly than outwardly, and you can certainly evolve spiritually. But I think most of us have signed up for a different type of journey. We've signed up for a journey where there's more of that interaction with other people, and through that interacting with a partner, a soulmate, a twin flame, we have to evolve in order to have compassion. For example, when my wife's going through something that I completely don't relate to, you know, I have to say to her something like, I don't relate to this, but I understand what you're feeling. Like I've felt those feelings before. And so instead of just staying in that position of like, well, I don't miss my family in the way that you miss your family, so I'm just going to not have compassion for you, which is certainly, I think, a way that some people in relationship, they sort of can stay in that mental place of not being able to understand because they don't relate to what the other person's going through. So one way to evolve spiritually is to say, I'm going to connect with the feeling that you're feeling because that I can relate to. So that's a way that we grow in relationship. Now with our relationships where somebody, let's say, was unfaithful, then you have the opportunity to grow spiritually by saying, well, I can forgive this. Like, I can be a bigger person than just to say, well, that's such a slight to my ego that now I have to leave this relationship, if you can talk about what created that scenario and how you can heal from it and trust again, and there can be a beautiful growth experience from something that nobody wants to experience.
Yeah, it's interesting in the way you describe it, Daniel, and thank you for that. There's something that's been coming up also in the way that we evolve, and for me as a man going through different relationships, and really touching into the concept of sovereignty, which has been such a big conversation over the last few years, is more illumination, and it seemed in our type of communities anyway, the whole stepping into sovereignty and what that means, and being of choice. And then you talk about relationships and the way that we set up. It's like almost like we're not supposed to come in needing anything in relationship. But I find that as a man expressing part of my innate drive, there is a need to build, to create. There's an inspiration that comes from being in relationship with another that helps to stimulate a creation. And the stimulation is wonderful, but somehow it feels like there's this alchemy, this primal drive that comes in through our human form that it almost requires that in certain ways. And I'm wondering what your take on something like that would be.
Well, what you and I were talking about before everybody else tuned in here is about holding our daughters for the first time in our arms and that type of love. And what I've been thinking about recently in regards to the love that I feel for my daughter is, I want to feel that for everybody. I don't want that to be just about her, and I don't want to reserve that type of love and that type of being who I really am just for one person as I do now. And of course I feel love for my wife as well, but I'm talking specifically about that love that feels so all-encompassing and overpowering, and like it's a total shift into a different you in that moment. And I certainly feel as though the best way to be is to be wanting to feel that way and see everyone through those eyes. And I think that was what the recently departed from this realm Ram Dass was all about. He was one of these guys, one of these rare gems that we had on earth that was about loving everybody and finding that ability to be the true self in the space of everyone. Now, someone like my daughter, she brings it out of me so easily. She just laughs or smiles or cuddles with me, and that's it. I'm there. But with other people, it's harder to get there, and that doesn't mean that we should give up, and it doesn't mean that we should even reserve that for one person that we're in partnership with. But when you feel whole and complete in yourself, when you have that sovereign feeling of, well, I am love, now let me go out into the world. Of course, I think there's a desire, even those Tibetan monks are probably in a state where they feel like they're sending that love to every other human in creation, an animal and tree and plant. And that's what the ultimate goal is. And I think when you're walking the earth like that, then the possibility of finding a soulmate is so much higher than when you're just going around seeking one person to give that to and sort of like shutting yourself down from really being that open expression of love that you could possibly be when interacting with every single person, even someone that you're calling for customer service who winds up, being in the Philippines or India or somewhere.
I love what you're bringing in on Daniel, Daniel. And again, being that comfortable with ourselves, being into us. And then that actually takes me into what I keep hearing over and over again. Even as I talked about these Lemurian energies that are awakening within the planet. And for me, that also involves the organic nature of living and being who we are and our organic unfolding. And in those things, in nature, it's like it all comes to nature, and nature doesn't go out and search it. It's very fluid, and I feel like that's where we're calling in. Also, we are in our being. What's in alignment for us finds us. There's a change in the energy, the frenetic chasing and producing and all this. Not that it won't be there. It feels like it's moving into a different mode in relationship. Yet it feels that as we get into your description of that sovereign state of being, that we do wind up bringing towards us, resonating with that which is in alignment with us. And there's divinity, there's grace that comes into place as well when we're in that space.
Absolutely. I think any conversation that we have on this topic also very naturally flows into a conversation about polyamory and people wanting to explore more than one partner. And I think that we certainly are moving in that direction as a society, where we can even have that conversation now more than ever before. And what I've seen go ahead, John.
No, after you, what you've seen.
Yeah. What I've seen in the spiritual community is sort of like such a desire for a person to be as evolved as they can be, that maybe they jump into something like that before they're really ready to do so. And I've also seen it work out for people perfectly, and they've had beautiful relationships where there's 3 people involved or something. But when I have visited, spiritual communities, and I've seen people try to put this idea of polyamory to the test, they're not always ready to have that experience, and yet they feel like it's something they're supposed to do because you hear about it and it seems like such an evolved way to be. But if not everybody is ready for it who's in the relationship, it's really can be a symptom of just one person not feeling fulfilled enough, not feeling happy, and knowing that they're always happy when they're in those early phases of a relationship where they feel more love flowing through them than they do after, year 3. So it really does. It's really a tricky way to enter into that idea of polyamory when it's not something very natural, where, instead of deciding, okay, we're going to be polyamorous, instead of going about it in that way, you just be happy with where you are and do your work in your own relationship. And then if somebody happens to come along that wants to enter into that relationship and both people feel really good about it, then I think that's the ideal way to approach more than one partner in a relationship. But I just know that as a collective, we have so much work to do that it's rare to meet someone where you could honestly say, well, I could see that person being fine, being okay with whatever happens in this polyamorous union.
Yeah, it's a big concept and the big conversation. I can tell, for me personally, I wouldn't be comfortable in that situation quite just yet. And it's not something
And
that
that's
I've
really
been
honest.
compelled to explore, right? Yeah. It's just,
yeah, it's
and
really
does it
honest
make,
of
and
you
does
to say
it,
that.
yeah, does it make me less evolved? Does it make me less conscious? I don't think so, but I'm also aware of some of my insecurities or some of my preferences also in going deeply with a person and exploring that. And again, not that you can't do it with more than one person, but my preference in that and the way that it comes up tends to be a little more traditional, and part of it does. And for I'm sure many people on the call, perhaps it hits those trigger points, those points. Am I going to get chosen? Those, or I'm looking for the one, which means that doesn't mean that there's the two. And so again, it's a big conversation that can be evolved. But I love that you brought it into the mix also, because there's a consciousness there. And what I know, Daniel, with absolute certainty, is that I don't know anything. Is that there's so many truths, and everybody's individual experiences, for me, is to be honored on their own trajectory. And I know a lot of people that are in the spiritual community are really functioning from a foundation of love, from a foundation of union and collaboration. It's the scarcity model has been dwindled away. The manipulation is not something that's running the show in the way that it was before. And when we act accordingly to that foundation of this intention of not only expanding ourselves but others in the process as well, there's so many directions that we can go in, and none of them have to be judged as wrong or judged as something that threatens my reality because they have a different reality. And I love that we're in that point of consciousness, that we can be in that space and just honor each individual journey, which is wonderful for us because that means we're honoring our individual journey. Daniel, I want to get into Q&A, but I have to ask you the big question. And the big question is, like, what's the most important thing that a person can do to attract their soulmate?
Well, it's so funny because I didn't intend at all to channel this last night. I started channeling like I always do, my daily message from the Arcturian Council, and they come through and they're talking about how much they've been noticing, how willing people have been lately to just be themselves. And even though we're different or, would be considered weird, that we really shine most brightly when we are true to ourselves, when we just are who we really are. And then at the end of the message, they said, and that's the way you attract your soulmate. It really is just, if you've ever seen someone who was completely in the moment of love with what they were doing, whether they're a painter, whether they were exercising, it could be, a musician, anything that a person does that they feel so in alignment with in that moment because they're doing it because it's their joy and they love to do it. There's an attractiveness about that person. There's something that makes me more curious about that person and just adore that person from afar. And I think that when the Arcturians said that, it just made so much sense to me as, oh yeah, when we're being ourselves, truly true to ourselves, and in that moment of complete connection with what we're doing, there's nothing more attractive than that. And that's who your soulmate is waiting for. Your soulmate is waiting for you, but you have to be the real you in order for you to light up to your soulmate.
Oh, I love that. Beautiful. Well, something that happens in a relationship, and God knows I've experienced this, talking about transparency, but I've been in those moments where I really feels like my being is running on all cylinders, and it's just I feel good. There's passion running through it. It's my body feels great, and it's the attraction levels is like I could feel myself beaming in a certain way, and then someone can come in that I'm attracted to, and then all of a sudden it's like I'm a teenager again, and the insecurities can start stemming in, or I try to be cooler than what I am, or all these things. And it's not that I completely fumbled through it. I've learned over the years, and of course there's a stability that comes in and a self-awareness. But still, when we get into those moments of fumbling through and trying to see how we relate to someone, especially when we're attracted to them in that way, and the vulnerability that comes in from their heart, and our impulses racing. How do we navigate that, Daniel? Again, it's one thing being and beaming that, then it's another kind of being wobbled by this potential of this amazing love.
Yeah. So then somebody comes along, and when you're in your moment of bliss doing what you love to do, and they're like, hey, you're kind of cute. I like you. And then you start to shift out of what you were just doing and
totally
paying attention to like, I wasn't really looking for attention, but here it is. So the thing that I gotta let the cat out. We're gonna hear meows for the next hour. Here you go. So it's honesty in that moment. It's being open about what you're feeling, and as soon as you speak it out loud, then it takes away the power of it over you. So just like once you're in that relationship and something comes up, you've got to talk about what you're feeling first, and that's the path to bringing you closer together as a couple. And so even in those early stages of initial attraction, to be able to say, I'm feeling really anxious about this because, I really get self-conscious when I meet somebody new and I'm wanting to put my best foot forward. And just saying it could just release all of that tension and anxiety in the moment, and then you give the other person permission as well to say, oh yeah, I feel really self-conscious too, and I feel like I'm having a really bad hair day, and it's our first date, and whatever they're going to say. And then you can both laugh about it and be more at ease instead of sort of not talking about the pink elephant in the room.
Yeah, that makes sense. I love that. And again, we can relax into it. We can laugh about it. And there's also a lot of support mutuality in that, which is wonderful. It's such a great conversation. And the special offer, I know you're going to go deep into attracting the soulmate, and we'll get into the special offer in a little bit, Daniel. But I would love to open up the queue for questions from the audience if you're open to that.
Yeah, let's hear from the people.
Hear from the people. And before I take the live call, you mentioned the Arcturians, and again, there's the Pleiadians, and you have Jeshua, the A channel, and the collective. Can you describe to us who the Arcturians are to you and the messages that you receive from them?
I've been channeling this group. It's a ninth dimensional group, so they're non-physical collective that ascended within the Arcturian star system from physicality to non-physicality, and they bring through these messages because they want to help. The Arcturians have been a lot less vocal, a lot less hands-on. You definitely will hear from a lot more Pleiadians, and there's been people channeling Pleiadians for 35, 40 years. But the Arcturians have been stepping up more recently, so you're starting to see more people bringing them through because they're wanting to be more of a part of the solution here and to be helping us to grow spiritually. So I see them talk a lot about spirituality, about going within, about how to make the ascension journey that we're on easier and more joyous for all of us, how to help others to do that as well. And they've just been such a blessing for me in my life since they've come in about 3.5 years or so ago. And, I've been channeling for over 9 years, so I've, brought through Yeshua and the Hathors and the creators and Kuan Yin and all these other beings as well. But I've really been focusing on bringing through that Arcturian energy lately.
Wonderful. I love the connection to Arcturians. It feels like home to me, so I love that you're bringing them in. So wonderful. All right, y'all. With that information and just a little more awareness of what Daniel's bringing in also, let's go ahead and take some callers. And the first caller I want to take is, let's go to Phoenix, Arizona. Telephone number ending in 7087.
Hello?
Hello, welcome.
Hello.
What's your name and what is your question for Daniel?
My name is Jeremiah, and it's actually really funny. I've been working with Daniel for, the last 3-4 years. I actually live maybe like 25 minutes away from him here in Maui. Hey, Daniel.
Hey, buddy.
I don't really have a question. I mean, I just want to say to Daniel, thank you so much for everything that you've helped me with, and I've been working through a challenging relationship for the last few years, and his channelings and his energy and just him as a person has just been a big help. So I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate you.
Oh, thanks, Jeremiah. I appreciate you too.
Awesome, Jeremiah. Well, thank you so much for calling in.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks.
All right. So good. And I love it that it was a guy calling in. With that,
he's a real special person.
Yeah, you can hear it in his voice. You can feel it. I have a great question to come in. This person didn't write their name, but I find that it does become a thing. So they're writing, how do we balance wanting time alone and a new soulmate wanting us to be available for them?
Well, you have to communicate, obviously, that's a part of your journey, that it's not that you need to have time away from that person. So I think if you communicate that really clearly, that it's not that you need a break or something, but more so that you've had so much time with yourself, that you've spent by yourself, that you've been able to go within and meditate and channel and connect with guides, that it's just something that you don't want to let go of now that you're in a relationship and you want to spend as much time with that other person as you can, but you still need some of that alone time.
And so it's balancing and having that communication in the alone time. Do you feel that sometimes the soulmate relationships require more, I can't say more communication, but perhaps more direct communication and authentic communication? Because we're so connected.
Yeah, because a lot of times,
if anything feels a little off, that we can feel it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't even have to say things to my wife for her to know exactly what's going on, and vice versa. But communicating that, sometimes you do have to draw it out of the person, because, we're still human and we still feel like, no, I can deal with this on my own, or I can solve this, or I don't want to be a burden. I don't want you to feel like you have to be my therapist, because, I don't want our relationship to be like that, especially for if that is something that you do for a living, and then your partner thinks like, oh, they don't want to talk about issues when they come home from work or stop working. And so that's why at times you really do have to open the door of communication by saying, you know what, I'll be the one to talk and say, I've been feeling a little bit anxious lately because I've noticed that you've been shutting down a bit and haven't been yourself lately, and I just want to know if there's anything that has been on your mind that's been keeping you from being fully present.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And what I love about that, Daniel, is also it's really calling us to mature into our maturity, to really step in and break out of some of the patterns that we've held before, even the way that we were taught to communicate, and to own our maturity and being okay with the communication, knowing that what's communicated back to us isn't really meant to tear us apart if we receive an answer that doesn't feel comfortable. It's actually meant as something to help build something stronger within ourselves, and then it's a building block for a stronger relationship as well.
Yeah, especially when someone is really honest with talking about their feeling instead of just saying, I feel triggered. So triggered is one of those words that, it gets tossed around a bit, but it doesn't really say how you're feeling. Mm-hmm. It's like saying, that hurt me, instead of owning I'm feeling some fear around our relationship now, or I'm feeling some anger because of that. Because if you're not really tapping into what you're feeling, then you're really just going to have a conversation about who said what, who did what, and then you go back and you're like, well, I don't remember it that way. And the other person's like, well, that's exactly how I remember it. And you don't really ever talk about what needs to be talked about, which is how you're feeling in the moment and what you can do to support each other through the processing of those emotions.
Yeah, and again, if we're asking for depth in relationship, that means we get to go deep and of course, those euphoric feelings and physical connection and the sensuality that can emerge. But the depth requires both ends of the spectrum, and going deep into those places that perhaps we didn't know how to communicate before, and it's requiring different use of languaging and going deeper into ourselves. That's where we start receiving the affluence in our lives, that abundance that we've been looking for, because we're mining for those places within us that are, again, are ripe. They're ready to mature, and they're ready to grow as a mirror, as a reflection of others that are showing up for us. So it's a beautiful opportunity. Such a great question that came in. Thank you so much. Daniel, I have a question that came in from Stacy. She has a question, and I have a question within her question. So she writes, hi, Daniel. I am now out of a karmically loaded relationship, and I'm lost and confused as I move forward into my new life. Do you have any insights for me and others like me? And what I want to ask first, Daniel, if you can talk about karmic relationships, because some people would say, there's twin flame dynamics and all that, and that there's karmic relationships as well.
Yep.
And then perhaps we can answer Stacy's question about how she can move forward into a new life.
Well, sometimes you'll look at something that happens in your life and you'll say, well, how did I attract that? We all heard, those of us who were into the teachings of, say, Abraham, heard about law of attraction a long time ago, and then The Secret came out, and The Secret was all about law of attraction, and people started to question and say, well, how did I attract this unwanted circumstance? Because we're talking about attracting wanted circumstances with a soulmate relationship, but then when something unwanted happens, you can start to say, well, what did I do, or what was I feeling, what was my vibration that I was offering that brought this about? And or was it karmic? Was it something that I set up before this lifetime because I wanted to experience that end of the agreement, the agreement to be the one who was, let's say, betrayed or something. And in another lifetime, you were the one doing the betraying, and your partner was the one being betrayed. So that all gives us an opportunity to feel. It just gives us an opportunity to access something that we wouldn't normally access. We certainly wouldn't choose for ourselves. We wouldn't sit down and make a vision board about being betrayed. But but it happens, you know. So then you just have to be gentle with yourself. Don't beat yourself up and say, how did I bring this into my life? Of course, there will be a time for that reflection, but when you're in it, it's best to just set aside time for yourself and say, you know what, these are my 15 minutes or 20 minutes I'm going to spend meditating today, and this is the time I'm going to spend processing. And I'm just going to sit with my feelings. I'm going to identify where they are in my body. I'm going to breathe into them until I intensify them to the point where they're really burning off and I can feel them sort of floating away and leaving my chakras and my energy field. And then I can think about building a new life for myself and what it is that I do want to create and attract for myself. But certainly just sitting and being in your mind and thinking like, was this Atlantis when this all got started, and what did I do to create this? You know, you're not really allowing yourself to go into what matters, which is the feelings that are trapped now inside and need to come out.
Beautiful. Such a great question. And again, I love the conversation about karmic relationships and how that evolves. And of course, taking our time, the reflection time, to incubate, because there's something else that's growing within us as well. Beautiful. Let's take another live caller. Let's go now to Palm Desert, California, telephone number ending in 1020.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much for taking my call. I appreciate it.
Yeah, what is your name? Welcome. And what's your question for Daniel?
My name is Diane. And it's true that, you know, you can have a soulmate that's not even in a relationship, like a boyfriend, girlfriend, just a friend of yours. Is that true?
Oh, gosh, that's something we haven't touched on yet. That's so great that you brought that up. Because I don't know if either of you have ever experienced this before, but I've had moments where I've been like, oh, this is the one. This is the person. We have all these things in common, and we feel so good together. We love each other. It's obvious. And I had 3 in a row like that. One with a boyfriend. One was lesbian. And definitely not bi, like, you know, we talked about it, and she definitely, and the other one was way too young for me. So it was one thing after another for me of like, why do I feel this strong connection? Well, that connection of feeling like this is so good and so right, how could it not be aligning? That also helps us to access some trauma, certainly some past life energy that's stuck within us that we just need to allow ourselves to process. You can still have a beautiful relationship. I'm glad I met all 3 of those women exactly when I did, and still adore them from afar, you know, but I also know that I needed to have those experiences to get me to where I am today, and I have no doubt whatsoever that my wife that I'm with is the perfect person for me to be with. So there's at some point you get to the point where you say, you look back at it and you say, oh, as awesome as that felt, and as much as we really had something strong and powerful that was bringing us back to past lives together, it really wasn't meant to be. and it was meant to be exactly what it was, to get me to feel what I felt. And
well, that's
then
what I'm
move on.
feeling now. Yeah, with a bestie. I have a bestie. She was just calling. As soon as I talk to you about that, her name comes up on the phone. And I was like, but it's funny because once in a blue moon we'll have a little, tiff between us, because it's like she's kind of closed down and in her ego more than her heart. And sometimes I don't feel her love. I feel she's shutting down or giving it all to her boyfriend or just whatever. And, sometimes I just, care about her so much. Like if she's going away somewhere, she lives where I live in this area right here in my complex. And if she goes somewhere that I don't know where she is, I worry about her, because I think what happens is I don't know where she is and something's needed, like she goes over a cliff or something on a mountain road, and I can't even tell the cops where to go because she doesn't bother to pick up the phone and say, I'm going to be gone for the whole day, and, and otherwise I just think she's at her house or in the area where we live. So I'm just saying, is that really difficult for you to do? And she's thinking I'm trying to change her, and all I'm trying to do is help her to have more compassion for me, to just give me a quick call so I don't have to worry about her. And out of that, she gets blessings anyway, because she's going to grow into more love for herself. But she's seeing it differently, and I just don't know, is that soul connection that I'm trying to grow our relationship, which I have grown a lot, in each other's lives. But do you just sit back and just shut down and don't try and care so much, or do you just let her have that, or do I let her sit with it as I did last night? I said, just sit with it and see if something comes up, because you're resisting so strongly about that, and I don't think it's that big a deal, just to help me so I could be there for you. God forbid something happened. I wouldn't be able to live the rest of my life without regret, And so I'm just wondering, on that soulmate thing, that's what you're there to do, is help each other grow to be the best you can be and bring out the love, right?
Well, now that you've expressed yourself, so you've communicated, you've put it out there to her that this is something that you would appreciate, and you explained why, and now you've put the ball in her court where she has the option of letting you know or not let you know. And if you find yourself in a position where you don't know where she is, you're worried about her, then the ball's in your court. So then it's up to you to process those emotions, to deal with the feelings that you have.
Yeah.
So yes, she's helping you to access those unique emotions. See, you've created this very unique situation for yourself that's the only way you could elicit those unique emotions.
But it's for both, I think, because she's opposite of me, and an empath, and she lives in her ego, and I live in my heart. And since we've been in each other's lives, I've given her the space she needs, and she's come forward, and doing, hugging where she never used to hug before. So she is growing, but it seems like this is another level of growth, and it's almost like, out of the love for me, if she had that compassion just for a 3-second call, albeit idle while, whatever, I would know that, okay, she's up in the mountains. If she comes back, if she doesn't come back for 2 days, I know where to have the police look. Otherwise, I don't have a clue, So I'm just trying to protect her because I love her, but she's making it sound like I'm trying to change her. I'm like, no, it's not where I'm coming from. So I just let her sit with it, and maybe she's going to call me back like she did just now and talk to me about it, and maybe not. And if she doesn't, I just have to deal with my own feelings. I understand that.
Yeah.
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 But
it's a journey, that the two of you will be on, I'm sure, for a while.
Yeah, I think it's a soulmate because we do everything together. Everybody knows it's almost like, like we're one person, but we're really opposite, and we have the same name, and we just do everything together. So basically, I think it's just a new level of growth, and I just was wondering, you could have a soulmate and never get married and still have a friend that goes through life with you,
Absolutely.
Well, that's good to know. Yeah. Thank you so much.
All right, Diane, thanks for calling in.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much, you guys.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
So interesting how it all evolves and we go through different circumstances. Guys, I want to get into Daniel's special offer, Attracting Your Soulmate, Let Love In, because it's a live course that you're going to be going on, and what's going to be shared on here is just so invaluable. So I want to encourage all of y'all to click on the special offer button or go to, in your web browser, type in beyondtheordinaryshow.com/Daniel21, and it'll take you to that same special offer page. And follow along here as Daniel, if you don't mind, share what you've included in the course that you're teaching and this live course that you're leading everyone through, and what benefits everyone can expect to receive by participating.
Well, the course takes place over 3 1-hour sessions where we meet for an hour and talk. It's mostly me talking about self-love and healing and clearing from past relationships, and then attracting the soulmate and the different steps you can take. But I also lead people through processes, exercises, meditations. I do a little channeling at the end of each one. I offer homework assignments in between, and I take whatever questions I can. Obviously there will probably be weeks when there'll be too many questions to answer all of them, but I get to as many as I can and answer as open-heartedly and honestly as I can.
So as you take everyone through this, Daniel, there's different modules or different levels that you're taking people through. So you get into attracting your soulmate, and there's breathing exercise that you have also that you're bringing in about and how to open and activate your heart to attract your soulmate, and that's something that you've channeled through Kuan Yin.
Yeah, this is something that's separate from the course that's included with a special offer. So I've been doing these types of recordings for years now, where I'll center in on a topic and a guide to work with. And for this one, I did Kuan Yin, which is a real divine feminine energy that I bring through. She's an ascended master, and she offers a breathing exercise to help connect to the heart and to the vibration of what it is that we want to experience in that romantic relationship. And so that's one of 6 additional items that you get along with the course.
That's great. So the other items are mantras for attracting your soulmate, and that's a channel from the creators.
Yeah.
And
so the creators really love to talk about how a mantra has to really resonate for you in order for it to work. And so they take you through that process with this of making sure that the mantra that you're speaking is actually hitting home and getting you to vibrate in the way that you want to do. So that's what that recording is all about. Each of these recordings is usually somewhere between 6 and 15 minutes.
So really accessible. And I love how the mantra has to resonate for you. It's like it's got to activate something within you. That's so resonant for me. Then there's a light language transmission for attracting your soulmate. There's a soulmate meditation from Archangel Michael. The soulmate activation from the Arcturian Council, again, 12 minutes and 12 seconds, and how to manifest your soulmate, getting ready, again, from the creators. It was amazing. Daniel, as people have gone through these transmissions and these different channeled recordings, what's the feedback that you get from your clients, or what have you personally experienced by going through these?
Well, certainly I have found light language to be incredibly helpful to get me into the right vibration to create the reality that I want to create, to heal from things I need to release. I've found meditation to be probably the greatest tool that there is in this new age spiritual world. And the feedback that I get from people is sometimes that the sounds. So there's a lot of tones at the beginning of most of these that I channel, that just being and listening to the sounds that come through me can transform a person and get a person into that state that they need to be in to attract a soulmate or to heal or to channel themselves a higher frequency being. So I always get really positive feedback from people about these recordings and how much they resonate with them. And, it always warms my heart to hear from people that they are making a difference. And so that's what keeps me in that mode of creation, where I just want to keep doing it and keep offering the transmissions that I do.
Beautiful. I love this, Daniel. And again, that resonant tone, which helps us to come into alignment. It's so beautiful to be in the resonance of that, of a vibration that invites us into that congruency. And y'all can participate in a special offer. It's a 3-week live online course with these additional transmissions and recordings that you'll receive prior to the course as well, for you to start working with. It's $111. There's a 2-payment option on it as well, and as always, a 30-day money-back guarantee. So you can take advantage of this. If there's a yes, there's every reason to say yes to this course and participate. And know that if it's not resonant, there's an opportunity, but I can't imagine that it wouldn't be. Fantastic offer from Daniel. Again, $111, 2-payment option. And to get to it, you can click again on the special offer button on the webcast page, or type into your web browser, beyondtheordinaryshow.com/Daniel21. It'll take you to that same special offer page. And Daniel, I'd love to open up to some more Q&A if you still have time.
I would love to.
All right, fantastic. So now let's go to Culver City, California, and telephone number ends in 3698.
Yes.
Hello, welcome.
Hi. This is Emily, and I don't know if you're just answering or if you're bringing in any of the guides, but I've been single for a long time, and I've had soulmate relationships. I've probably had twin flame relationships, but I really want to bring in the one. And if you see anything that's, in the way, or if it's just a matter of timing, or just any communication that would help me kind of understand what's going on in that department.
There's a lot that there are people who actually make it their profession to hear what's in a person's voice, in the tone of a person's voice. They can pick up on a lot. And as I listen to you speak, I feel that there's so much love pouring out of you, and there's so much that you have to give. And as you just put yourself in that space of, I'm ready, I'm open, if you repeat that mantra to yourself, I'm ready, I'm open, I'm here to receive the love that I've been putting out, then that is going to be enough to open you up even more and to send out that vibration. But I feel like you're already doing it. I feel that you're very close, and that as you listen to the message that we were talking about earlier of just being yourself, there's definitely somebody out there coming. And just by connecting to John and I in this call, I feel like you've even put out even more of a smoke signal to the universe that says, I'm ready, I'm here. And I just want you to focus on opening yourself up to receive that love, because I feel like you've put out enough of the vibe, and now it's time for you to put away any ideas that maybe you're blocked or you're doing something wrong, because I hear that a lot in private sessions with people where they'd say, oh, I must be blocked or something because it's not happening for me. I'll tell you, I've spent probably almost as much time in my adult life single as I have in relationships. So I know what it feels like to be wondering, when is this going to happen and why isn't it happening? But really, it's just about enjoying the place where you are right now and doing the things that you love to do, and that is what's going to make you light up when you're in that person's visual range. And I just feel that it's an inevitable experience for you at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for calling.
I also think that there's a synchronicity here that I want to share, and that's that I went to an energy healer in Culver City back in 2002 and sat across from this woman for like two and a half hours, and she just stared into my eyes, and I felt that after that session, that one session, she opened my heart. And so that happened for me in Culver City. And I fell in love almost immediately after that and wound up getting married.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing.
So awesome.
So, feels nice to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for calling in, Emily. So wonderful. So, Daniel, let me ask you this, because I've had these experiences before, or these experiences have come to me where there's a connection with someone and there's an attraction and you get around each other. It's like time just like expands. It's like you're in this bubble, this portal, and you don't know what day of the week it is, what time it is, and you're hanging out so much together. It's just, it's like you get transported. It's almost like you're walking on air sometimes. But then there's the dynamic of also, it's like there's so much of that potentially that then there's the need for space, or the need to recollect yourself somehow, and not knowing how to identify with your own space and that vortex that you're in together. What does that speak to you of?
Well, as really open, empathic, sensitive people, we do have to remember that we still have to love ourselves. When you're in that relationship, it can seem like, oh, now I don't have to think anymore about self-love because I've got this other person, but that other person isn't always going to be able to offer that to you because they're going through their own stuff, or they're just busy and distracted, or wherever they are. And then you have to remember, oh yeah, I have this internal fountain of love that I can always go to. And as you just take yourself back into your own heart space and feel for the infinite eternal love of Source that's within all of us, then it's really easy to feel whole and complete with the self, and to recognize that while it's awesome to be feeling those high frequency feelings when you're with the other person, that you're still going to have to come back to being by yourself at times, and that's a good thing, because we always want to be cultivating self-love. It's what makes us better partners to the person that we're with. And again, if you can just be open with the other person and say, I really just really love the time that I get to spend by myself too, because of the quiet and the connection that I feel to earth and nature and other beings. I think that anyone would understand that who's comfortable in their own skin and awake spiritually.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's beautiful. It's a beautiful reflection. Because again, that chemistry can kind of overrun sometimes, and it's got this push-pull dynamic in different ways. And so it's important to know that in relationship, especially if we've been looking for soulmate relationship or we're ready for that, that there's a pacing that can occur to allow our bodies and our mind and our hearts to catch up with ourselves, and not get into the overwhelming, again, alchemical process that may be happening, which can be fantastic. But really, we want to balance it out, and we want to be in that mature place to build something sustainable for ourselves, and then we can really show up for other people, which is wonderful. And we have a question that came in. Well, first of all, someone's asking, they joined the call late. We are going to run a replay. We'll send the replay link a little bit later this evening. Give us about an hour after the call ends, but you can always access replays once they're up and loaded on our system by going to beyondtheordinaryshow.com/replay. So again, we'll have that up a little bit later. And then got this great question that came in, Daniel, from Nicole in Sedona. And Nicole writes, it seems that there's way more women than men in the spiritual community. Do you ever see this coming into balance? And how important is it for both partners in the relationship to be on a spiritual path?
Well, oh wow, that's such a great question, and such a challenging one too, because obviously it has to, because we're in this journey right now of ascension, and I think there are probably a lot of males out there who are having these amazing awakening experiences and then just sort of throwing them away or saying, well, that wasn't real, or I was just making that up, or not wanting to talk about it with anyone, not feeling comfortable opening up about their spiritual awakening experiences. And then there's people like me and John who are just like, well, that's all we want to do is talk about it. But you know, that's what the awakened male is helping others to do. And I think with the number of podcasts that are out there now, I love listening to a podcast and hearing someone who's in the public eye talk about their feelings and talk about their spiritual experiences. And it's like right now there's so much going on that's positive for men who are open to change and open to having more of a conversation about what the imbalances have been between men and women on the planet, and sort of recognizing that we all have a feminine energy within us as well, and that when we're open to it and we're allowing it to flow, it can be really a beautiful experience of connection. And I think that it has to come back into balance with men and women, and I think it'll be a beautiful unfolding for all of us to witness more and more men coming into the spiritual community and to start talking about their feelings and their spiritual experiences.
Yeah, I agree. Great question that came in. Thank you so much, and thank you for the awareness, Daniel. Guys, this is so wonderful. Again, I want to remind you all of this the special offer from Daniel, Attracting Your Soulmate. Let love in. And I would even say for others of us, you know, for other people who may be in relationship also, and how to open to a different, you know, more intimacy with not just being with someone else, but within us, because our soulmates really are an expression that are helping us to illuminate that art, that expression that is ready to evolve from us in different forms. So it's just a wonderful conversation on so many different levels. So to get this 3-week live course, to be able to ask Daniel your personal question as he commits to opening up time to answer as many questions as possible, and to receive these exercises and transmissions and meditations from Kuan Yin, from the creators, a light language transmission that's coming in, Archangel Michael coming in, attracting your soulmate meditation, Big Turing Council and soulmate activation, all included for $111 and a 2-payment option. Again, I want to encourage you guys to take advantage of this special offer. And again, to do so, just click on the special offer button or go to beyondtheordinaryshow.com/Daniel21. And Daniel, I'm going to take one more question tonight from the audience, and I want to go to Worcester, Massachusetts. Telephone number ending in 6101.
Hey, Daniel and John, this is Ben. How's it going?
Hey, Ben.
Hey, Ben.
So my question is, I hear names intuitively, like a precognition kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm texting this girl right now who we found each other off a dating site, and we're going to hang out next week for the first time, but I had been hearing her name off and on for months prior to our texting each other. And this has happened a couple other times, not always romantic relationships, and I don't know if it's something like a download, like your wife got with Talea, but like, what is that exactly?
I would say it's definitely a heads up from the guide saying, this is meaningful, this one is going to be someone that you're going to want to, I think, is it swipe right? I don't even know. the good swipe, to do the good swipe on. And certainly synchronicity plays a lot. When we get together with someone and we find out, oh yeah, we have this huge connection, we often see tons of synchronicities, and it's always the universe just saying, yep, more of this, keep moving in this direction, this is right, just in case, our feelings aren't enough to convince us that we're moving in the right direction, which is often the case. Even with spiritually awake people, we're still prone to the second guessing and the questioning. So I think it's really guides just saying, yep, this is right. Like me and my wife both having dreams about Talea before she came, and that sort of message as well comes where, we both wanted a girl. So we both had dreams of a girl was coming, and we're both so happy when she came. And there's just so many different ways the universe can talk to us and say, yeah, this is the way, this is the direction you're headed in it, and just stay on that train because you're going to the right place.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
It's also great just to have a clairaudient experience. I mean, who doesn't love a nice clairaudient, message that they get in that mind's ear? It's just so cool. I love it when that happens.
Yeah, but for me, it's not like I don't know what it is in the moment, and it was a really uncommon name. It was the name of a movie title, and I'm like, what the hell should I? The name is Juno. I was like, should I watch the movie Juno? Because that was the only Juno I've heard of. So I don't know what it means until later on.
Yeah, that's a really great movie. I would recommend watching it again.
That's fantastic. And again, I think it's important, Daniel. Also, I've had similar experiences also, and it's interesting because it's when it's whispered in your ear, you get that cognition. It's like, what is that? And it's a little confusing, and you kind of, and again, to have a name like you're having, Juno, how much more clear can you be? And it doesn't have to be about projecting, this is the one, or this is my future wife, this is the person I'm going to be with. It's like, what's the gift of the exchange that's happening between us in the present moment, and allowing things to evolve organically, knowing that if something is meant for us, It just is. And there's not anything that we truly have to work towards to make it happen. We'll know in the moment as the moment progresses. Because I see a lot of times, Daniel, and God knows I've done this in different relationships where I try to be something or try to act out in advance what is needed to try to hold on the vision of what I feel is occurring. And that just takes me away from the present moment. It takes me away from myself. It takes me away from what's unfolding organically and from realizing that what I've been looking for is right there in front of me, instead of trying to make it what I think it's supposed to be when it's already here. And not holding on to the fantasy of what that relationship is supposed to be, but rather being in the present moment of the gift of what's right there presenting itself to you in love.
Yeah, there's always that possibility for the mind to jump in and try to figure things out and plan for everything, and we just have to take a few deep breaths. I think that's a big step for everyone in this process that we're in, of just needing at times to slow down, take those deep breaths, and recognize that right now is perfect as it is.
Beautiful. Ben, thank you so much for calling in. Great awareness, and man, that's awesome that you're open to that level of communication and how it's streaming in for you. So good. Again, everybody, Daniel's special offer on attracting your soulmate, letting love in. Take advantage of that. The replay we'll have up in a little while. Again, to access the replay, we'll send that to in the email soon, or you can go to beyondtheordinaryshow.com/replay. And Daniel, so with that, I want to thank you so much for being on the show tonight and bringing in this conversation and a new energy into the soulmate possibility and what we're opening to receive. It's been a gift, and I appreciate what you've brought in. So thank you.
It's always great chatting with you and your audience, John. I love it.
All right, thank you, man. And for everybody on the call listening to the replay, thank y'all for being on this call, for participating, for bringing in your energy so that we can expand even further as we all amplify one another into seeing more of what's available to us through this love, through these connections, through the example that you provide for all of us. So it's with that I bow to each and every one of you in namaste. And with that, I send y'all a huge hug, all my love, and look forward to seeing you on the next call. Bye-bye.
Please like, subscribe, share, and comment on this video.